Hello, everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Round Table. 3 words, Paranormal Round Table. I am your host, Josh Turner, and with me, as always, is, what is your name again?
Sal, as always. Hey, I'm here. I'm happy to be here.
And as you know, he is the salad czar.
Czar of all salad.
If you're eating salad, he's going to know about it, and he's going to fine you, because that is...
Find which way? Find or fine?
He's going to fine you.
And... Yeah.
And he's going to find you and fine you.
There you go. Got to get a little cheddar on it. You know?
And since you're going to be the salad czar, are you going to tell us how all of our salads are going to be eaten, or just certain salads?
Just certain salads,
just
you know.
Certain salads?
I kind of freestyle it on that, you know, because
I like a good Cobb salad once in a while. Am I going to be okay to eat that? Or
yeah. Do what you got to do.
You're the salad czar.
Well, but the whole point is, as long as I get paid, you know, hey. Eat your salad.
Well, this sounds like a very communistic idea you got going on that I just gave you. This is ridiculous. Okay, so anyways, I'm going to plug my emails, daswolfman88@gmail.com. Once again, that's daswolfman88@gmail.com. I want to get into some things, but because I've heard some things.
There you go. Well, hey, luckily this is more potluck.
More potluck. We're going to call it Paranormal Potluck, and who doesn't like
Part
a good potluck?
2, you know? Yeah. So... since we're doing a potluck, hey, what do you got for us tonight, brother? What do you want to lead in with?
Well, do you remember what we talked about last
time? Oh, yeah. We had so many things, but you know what? What comes to mind first of all? You know, you said you had this really interesting story about black-eyed kids. That's a really recent phenomenon.
That's
really.
Actually very. I have a friend, and everybody calls him Loki.
All right,
and you know him. Actually.
Yeah, I know. I met Loki.
He's got a story, but I still have not gotten the whole gist of that. But I do have another story that I know firsthand.
Oh well, hey,
and it happened in a place where I worked. I will. Before we get into that, though, I'd like to talk about the last. Episode.
Oh, a brief rundown. Yeah, we covered quite a bit of stuff.
What did you think of the giant hog and the spiders? I guess you say that's horrifying. But anyway,
well, first and foremost,
your thoughts.
I'm a true Texan, and a hog that size, I wouldn't doubt it at all. There have been huge hogs taken over the course of the last 10, 20 years in Texas. So. You know, but to see one the size that you mentioned is just wow. That's all I got to say. I'm glad I wasn't there. And those guys are probably thanking their lucky stars they didn't anger that thing and have it come after them. The spider, yeah, I'm seriously interested. I would follow the spider to just see where it went. But to say that I'd go in there, poke it with a stick, no, I wouldn't do that. You know, that's a bit much. Now, you know, the whole thing with these cryptid, you know, reptilian creatures in the ocean, dinosaurs, if you will, whatever you want to call them, it's up to you. Okay, I'm pretty much like you about the ocean. I'll go out there, but I'm not going to be looking to hang out with Jaws or anything, you know, sharks and stuff. But people reporting these reptilian dinosaur-like creatures out there that you have to call them cryptids because we don't have them. People are not citing them all over the place. We don't have them recorded in mainstream science. So that just kind of, you know, to me, I'm not going to discount their stories because I have to take it for what it's worth because we have not, and this is 100% proven that we have explored very little of our oceans. We know more about outer space,
absolutely.
You know.
That's right.
So the ocean stories, anything, you know, ocean stories like that, no, I'm not going to discount them. I'll take it in and I will listen. You know, I have to be on the witnesses side on that one. That's just my thoughts and feelings on it because a lot of these researchers that claim, you know, those don't exist or anything like that, you got to think the crew on that captain they're always out there. So
yeah,
if they said, you know, they said the what was it? He's like the first mate, if you will. He said he'd seen other ones, and that was a small one. Mm-hmm. He goes out there every day. He's out there every day. So yeah, I'm with that one. And as far as the pterodactyls, aka flying reptiles, those kind of reports have been, you know, they've surfaced around Texas for a long time. Well, no, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, you know, I mentioned black-eyed kids, but I just started thinking about that, and we're still doing potluck. So I've always been caught up in it always got me going about the Jersey Devil stuff. We haven't really touched on that.
Yeah.
And since it's potluck, what do you got on that?
We talked a little bit about that before the show. That if you wanted to throw that out there. That Jersey Devil. I have a Jersey Devil sighting that sounds an awful lot like a flying reptile to me.
Let's hear it.
There was a girl that I used to work with. They were building I'm not going to even get into what it was. It was a building outside of Austin. And funny enough, I worked overnight security. She would come in the morning, and she'd always come in early. And she would usually just kind of sit there on her phone and text, whatever. But then one morning we started talking, and we were actually next to a haunted cemetery that's supposedly haunted. And this was out near Dripping Springs.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting
but not
area.
in Dripping Springs. So going out that way, and that's west of Austin. Is that correct? Would that be correct?
Southwest, that direction.
Yeah,
yes.
that direction. And anyways, they were building a something out there, and she was from New Jersey. And of course, me being the way I am, I started talking about the cemetery. Supposedly, it's haunted, and that I was like, "Wow, we're working right next to building this, right next to this, you know."
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyways, she started talking to me about being in New Jersey, and I started talking about ghosts or whatever. And she was like, "Well, so far, nothing weird has happened. If anything happens, when in this building, I'll let you know, but so far nothing has happened, And they were almost done with the construction of this said property. Excuse me. But she said that she had a Jersey Devil encounter when she was a kid. Her dad would take her out hunting, and now she lived in South Jersey.
Yes.
Like in the south side of, the south of the state.
Yes.
Not where all the
weird stuff goes on with people.
Yeah,
weird
with
stuff
people.
With people.
Yeah, the north of New Jersey tends to be, it's like a long bunch of strip malls. Kind of like Cleveland. When I was in Cleveland, I just thought, wow, this is one big strip mall. But she said that they lived near the woods, and that her dad had taught her how to hunt when she was young, and her and her husband were still avid hunters, and they had moved down here because he was working for a construction company. And so, anyways, long story short, we started talking about the Jersey Devil, and she said that she had an encounter when she was a kid. Now, what she said was that they were walking through the woods to get to wherever they were going to post up at, and they heard this loud shrieking noise that almost sounded like a howl, but it was like this weird shriek mixed with like how an owl would sound.
Dang,
she said it was really hard to describe, but she said that it scared her, and that her dad apparently had heard this before, and he kind of put his arm up to kind of stop her, like hold on,
Uh-huh.
And this is in the Pine Barrens, where the legend of the Jersey Devil is.
Yes.
And I'm not going to get into the whole legend because the legend just sounds so ridiculous, but I think that the legend was just built to explain these creatures. And I have heard stories of these things being on people's roofs and jumping down and looking like they were as tall or as big as a man.
Oh.
Now, that's not what she saw. What she saw was something that was probably about half the size of a grown man.
Oh, that's interesting.
She said 3 to 4 feet, and she saw this thing like walking on 2 legs on the ground, but it had wings, and it was not so much walking as like it was kind of hobbling, like it kind of was shuffling, I guess you should say. I think the word she used was shuffling.
Uh-huh.
And so imagine in your mind like a bird on the ground that's trying to walk and how they kind of look awkward. And she said that it had a pointy head, and there was this weird looking tail with like a triangular looking shape, like kind of a weird looking, that it kind of came out in a point.
Yes.
Which could give credence to the whole idea that it's the devil tail.
Yes.
Sounded an awful lot like a pterodactyl from South Texas that we're hearing about from these cryptids.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that I thought, wow, that maybe that's what this is.
Could be
some sort of like reptile throwback, a descendant of these
or remnants
pterosaurs.
Or remnants of like we mentioned in a previous show about the coelacanth fish. It was, scientists had said it had been extinct for millions and millions of years, and then it was caught off the coast of Borneo. So that just blew their little theory out the water right there. So, I wouldn't doubt it. I will say this, though.
Was it Borneo? Because I thought it was like West Africa.
I think they may have caught some there, too. It's.
Well, I thought the original, when they knew that it was West Africa, like.
Well, Borneo, West Africa, not West Africa, East Africa. That's all. The oceans are all in that.
Yeah, but East Africa's a long ways from West Africa, dude. I've been to Africa, and that's two different sides that we're talking about.
That's
there.
what I read.
Borneo, I thought.
Y'all can check it out, folks. You can check it out and prove to yourself. But it's definitely
look that up, Tony. Look up Borneo and exactly where that's at, because I could have swore it's
a big island. Yeah,
West
Borneo.
Africa. You may be right.
But the whole point of it is that guess what? They caught the fish. They caught that supposedly extinct fish, and it blew science. The scientists, theories out of the water about that.
I'm sorry. The reason that I wanted to know that was not just the minutia that sometimes we get caught up in, but Borneo is in Asia.
Yeah, it's an island. It's an island country.
That's in Asia. That's not in Africa.
No, it's an island country.
Okay, but it's still country. Asia.
Yeah, in the Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Yeah, so Vietnam, that is okay. That's Malaysia, so far from that is way away from Africa, though. I remember that the coelacanth was caught off the coast of Africa, but like I said, there is a Mandela effect that I believe, and there's so many things that change. I'm not kidding. I mean, we're going to get into an episode of that eventually, but there's a lot of things that are just weird. Borneo is near Indonesia.
Yeah, all Malaysia, Indonesia, all that stuff.
Yeah, but that's not nowhere Southeast near Asia. Africa, because I remember hearing that it was caught off the coast of Africa.
Well,
that's
they
a good
probably
one. Tony,
did
why don't you look that up for us and find out exactly where the first one was caught? Because I will tell you this, if it was off the coast of Asia, that's going to blow my mind.
Well, not Asia, but Borneo is an island, Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, all those areas. Yeah. It's in that area.
That's still Asia, though. And what I'm saying is not to have an argument with you.
No, we're not arguing.
We're not arguing, but just like what I'm saying is if it was in Asia, that's going to blow my mind, because I remember it being caught off the coast of West Africa.
Well, that's interesting.
And then again, we may both be wrong, but I just
Mandela effect, brother.
It won't be the first time.
Yeah,
Now, if I am ever wrong, that definitely is a Mandela effect. That's like something new to me.
Hey, and we'll discuss Mandela effect in another episode.
Yeah, that will take up an episode or two to try to get all the weird, like just so you guys know what that is. Like, people remember the spelling of Febreze. Yeah, as the word breeze, but now it's spelled like Febreze.
With one E, with one E in there.
And there's all these people that are arguing about how it's called the Mandela effect because people remember him dying like 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And I have a mind that's pretty potent. I have a memory that's pretty potent, and I remember him dying twice.
To me, I'm just like, I got to explore this more. I got to read more.
You got to do some research on it. But that's not what we're here to talk about today, folks. We're here to talk about this Jersey Devil. The color of the skin was gray. She said it was a grayish looking creature, and it was walking, and then it just jumped up and swooped through the up, and then kind of like glided through the air. Like, it flapped a couple times with these like long wings. I did ask her about the wings. They were fairly close to it. And it had this weird tail that was kind of triangular at the end, and then the wings were flat. And she said the wings were about 8 feet. Wow,
but it wasn't a real big creature.
It wasn't humongous.
So an 8-foot wingspan's not.
It flew up into a tree,
small, or anything like
and
that.
Just kind of sat in the tree, looking down at them, and they just kind of slowly backed away, and they left, and that was her story.
Oh wow, yeah. Judging from what you just told me in the details, it sounds like I think you're spot on with that one. It's probably some type of like the report of those flying reptiles, flying bird reptile. Well, not bird, but reptilian creature, cryptid. And like I said, probably a remnant of dinosaurs. I mean, you hear all kinds of other flying odd,
and staying with that theme.
Yeah,
I have a few Thunderbird stories, but we're not going to get into
that's a whole show on
the Piasaw and all that. I've heard stories about that. I've read stories, but I also have been given a couple over the years. But I have an account of someone I used to work with, and he was down in Guatemala during all the Civil War and all that, and he was actually working as a
early 80s. Yes.
No, it ended in the mid 90s.
Did it?
It was a 30-year war. Yeah.
Oh wow, I never really got caught up.
Okay, so this guy, he basically told the story. He was a consultant, if you want to call it. I want to call it.
Yeah.
Kind of a mercenary, word. I guess you would say. Soldier of fortune. I don't know what you call it.
Those guys still exist. Soldiers.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's what they're doing. That's how they got the deck of cards from Iraq. Was it the 52 or whatever?
Yeah.
Most of those guys were mercs. I know a few of these people. I'm not going to get into how or why. It's not neither here nor there to know. But anyways, giant birds. This guy told me a firsthand account. His name is Mark. That's what I'm going to call him, is just Mark. Mm-hmm. And Mark told me and my brother and a couple of our friends when he worked with us that he saw a giant birds, like these giant birds. And it was almost like, you ever seen the movie Jaws where the guy goes, like a doll's eyes? And he's talking about it, and he's like, yeah, and he's like drunk, and he's kind of talking. I'll be honest, it was kind of like that. Wow. And I'm not going to lie, this guy had talked about these things before. Yeah. And that actually would lead into another story, because we were talking about a very strange incident that had happened at the club, because that club did have a lot of weird stuff happen there. And that's a whole nother show. But he talked about these giant birds. He claimed that the porters, if you will, the ones that would help them lug their gear and all that, they would hire these like people that lived up in the mountains to the locals. It's a jungle, mountainous terrain, and that they talked about these birds, and I can't even remember the name of what they called them. They had a name for them, and it's been a long time since Mark's told us that story, and I haven't seen him in
a long
probably
time.
15 years.
Wow.
But this story he told us probably 20 years ago.
Wow.
And he had traveled around. He was an older guy, drove a motorcycle, big old bald-headed guy, but not big, but like tall, and knew how to shoot a rifle. I've been on the range with him a couple times, and he was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Former military, and then had gone over there, like I said, in an advisory capacity to help the government keep it from being overthrown by communism. And so, but he said that they were up in the mountains, and one of the things that he talked about was these birds, they would live in like clumps in these trees, and
clusters?
That they like groups of them, like a nest of them. There would be one or two really big ones, and then like some smaller ones, but that the smaller ones were probably half the size of a Volkswagen.
Wow.
And they were nocturnal. They would come out at night, and they would hear them shrieking in these trees, and the porters and the soldiers that he would be with that were from that region, they would be terrified.
Oh, wow.
Because apparently how these birds killed was that they would come down and they would bite off your head.
Oh, wow.
Like they were decapitators, and they would just bloop, your head's gone. And then one would do that, and then the next one would come in and pick you up.
Wow.
So you would be, before you even hit the ground, the second one would swoop in and grab you. That's the story that he was told. And he said he did actually, he was shown like the work that these birds do to animals.
Oh, wow. That's
and how
crazy.
That they would actually find bones laying around at the foot of trees where these birds had done their work. Apparently these birds had feathers, but they were very prehistoric looking.
So they weren't bats. They definitely knew they weren't bats.
These were not bats. Bats don't decapitate
fruit
humans.
Bats are big.
And fruit bats don't decapitate humans. Exactly. I mean, come on, man.
No, I'm just checking.
These were not bats. It was the bat from Castlevania. Remember the original Castlevania? You had to fight that bat?
Yeah.
Maybe it was like that. The bat that Simon had to throw the axes at to kill. That maybe that's what it was.
So, but they knew for sure this is not a bat.
This was not a bat. He gave a very accurate description of one. Said that one time they were walking and they were coming across a clearing over a ridge, and that there was a really tall, very ancient looking tree that had all kinds of roots, and that it was like almost like two trees intertwined.
Wow.
And he could see the tree swaying and moving because whatever was up inside of the branches of this top of this tree.
Wow, that's
and
nuts.
He said the kind of tree it was, and I can't remember, it's been so long, but he said that these birds were shaking that tree, and he said the tree was like, you could put 100 humans in it.
And
he said that they said that the name of those birds and that's what they were. And then the guys that were lugging their equipment wouldn't move any further.
They said that was it.
And they were like, no, we're not going to go any further. They wouldn't go past it. So that they were going to go about 8 kilometers around, which I guess 8 kilometers would be what, 5 or 6 miles, 5 miles?
Let's see. 0.6 of a mile is a kilometer.
Yeah, so 5. I don't know. Anyways,
you can do the math.
They
folks.
wanted him to. Yeah, you do the math at home. They wanted him to go around it, and he was like, "No way." And so things kind of got ugly. So they kind of had to, at gunpoint, tell these people to push their stuff, their gear,
get it through there.
And some of them were like, "Okay, well, go ahead and shoot me," because they didn't want to go past that. And so it was getting dark, so they had to hunker down and whatever. And in the middle of the night, most of the porters slipped away. So the next day, he had 1 or 2 left, and it was daytime. And they actually continued on. This was what he told us. And they continued on, and they found one of the workers. Pretty much, they saw one of the birds. What they said was a small one. Was just sitting there like on the ground, I guess, in between that giant tree. Clump of trees, whatever you want to call it. They were all intertwined. In between that and their camp, there was one that was just on the ground like a vulture would be and just eating it. And he said that it looked very prehistoric, had a giant head, and had these weird like sparse feathering on it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that the feathering was gray and black.
Yeah.
But it looked like if you took a pterodactyl and dipped it in feathers. That's what he said.
Oh, man.
And he said it was horrifying. This thing had teeth, like really, really big teeth, like conical shaped teeth. Wow. And he went to raise his rifle, him and some of the other guys, and they began to tell them, tell the soldiers,
don't shoot it.
The soldados that they were with were like, no, because if you shoot one, the other ones will come
out. Yeah.
And that one was a smaller one. So these things live in like familial units, like family units, which are like packs, which is really weird. And that they have like these giant birds with packs, and that they will decapitate people. And they were, it was crazy, man. Like the story he was telling us, and and I asked him if any other weird stuff happened there, and he said that no, I mean that was pretty much it.
That was wow. That's I can only imagine. I mean, you've got a bird, a bird, and you're looking at it, and it's a big bird, and then those guys look at you and go, "Oh, that's a small one." I know what I'd be doing.
Yeah, he said it was about 7 feet off the ground.
Wow! When it was standing?
Yeah, he said that when it was standing up off the ground, it was about a foot taller than him, and he was about 6'3". So
wow, that's a.
So what are these things?
Just judging from the description, I would say it does sound like some type of prehistoric bird. There was this one prehistoric bird when I was a kid that always caught my attention because what they did with it, the depictions in the books that I saw growing up as a kid, this bird, it looked like a bird, but yet it was considered a dinosaur, i.e., aka a reptile. But they claimed it was had feathers. I can see the picture in my head right now. I'd have to look it up. But it was colored, and they said it had some feathers. And the reason it caught my attention because it had.
Are you talking about a parakeet, dude?
No.
A parrot?
This is when I was a kid. No.
The Dinobots?
No, this is when I was a kid. I was looking at the picture. You know how they give you that you open up the pictures of the dinosaurs when they start talking about
that? It was a dinosaur book as a kid.
No, this was in school when you start talking about dinosaurs.
They taught you dinosaurs in school?
Yeah.
They didn't teach us that.
Yeah.
That was not. They didn't go to prehistory back then. They just said that we were all monkeys.
Science is all part of science.
They were just like. I think that when that part about the prehistoric, they literally just played like that one song from Beck, isn't it? In the time of chimpanzees, I was a monkey, and then the teacher was asleep, and then they woke up, and then they were like, "Okay, well now we're moving on to Texas history."
Wow. No, this was all in the science. It was more of a, it was a bird, because you had the flying reptiles in one picture, and then you had the regular dinosaurs over here, Brontosaurus, Stegosaurus, all that stuff.
That's interesting that you actually went to a school where they taught you about dinosaurs, because they didn't teach us anything about dinosaurs.
But it's hard for me to explain.
What grade were you in?
I think 4th grade.
Man, you had a cool school. What school was this?
Woodland Heights Elementary.
Woodland Heights Elementary in Brownwood?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That'd have been cool to go to. That's cool because they didn't teach us about dinosaurs. I had to learn everything from the Transformers.
Yeah, I mean,
So what do you think this bird you were talking about, that you think that's what this was?
it could be a variant of that bird.
That's what I always think.
Yeah.
I always think that these things could be like a evolved descendant of these creatures.
There's a lot of researchers out there that are quite studious, and they're well educated and everything. That'll tell you, if they're not accepted by mainstream science, they'll tell you some truths, such as these dinosaur bones we find and all this other stuff, and then they put them together. All the extra stuff, they're guessing at the color.
You know what?
The color doesn't ever stay.
I'm thinking that there's a type of bird, and you guys at home you guys and gals can look this up. Archaeopteryx, maybe.
Oh, something like that. It may be that one. I don't have a computer in front of me, so I can't look it up.
Yeah, I don't either right now. But the bird that Sal is trying to describe sounds like an Archaeopteryx, but if I'm even saying the word right, and if you can remember the song, let me know too, because I think it's Beck. In the time of chimpanzees, there was a monkey.
So, anyways, that's what it sounds like to me. Yeah, but again, we don't. I listened to this one video, and I always listen to it, and I'll tell everybody. It's called Lloyd Pye, Everything You Know Is Wrong. He says it's good. I listened to it for the first part. It's got all the stuff about the prehumans, and he talks about how Bigfoot and all these other variants of Bigfoot that are out in the world, how they are miscategorized, prehumans, and it's all humans versus prehumans, all this stuff.
Do you think that's what that is, the Bigfoot?
No. What
you don't think that they're all different types of prehistoric humans?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That I totally believe.
Like
that.
Quest for Fire. Has anybody ever seen that movie?
I love that movie.
That's crazy because they had all these different types of humans that were evolved. They would be living simultaneously. That is true. That they believe that we had rivals, not just the Neanderthals, but all kinds of different weird
other ones.
humanoids that were whatever. Some would say, and of course you've read the Sitchin books, and we've both gotten into that.
We've had that debate a lot.
Some would say that those are Inky's creations, or what was his name?
Inky.
That would be his.
It was all the creations,
cast-offs that didn't work out,
exactly.
And so they became their own species or whatever.
Was,
why they wouldn't have destroyed them, I don't know. But
no, it's easier to just turn them loose.
Why?
Just turn them loose because
you couldn't use a death ray to just.
I don't know. That's a good question because
you make a retarded ape and then you just let it go out into the wilderness.
But you got to think,
that's horrible.
If you've read the books, The Earth Chronicles by Zechariah Sitchin, he loved his creations. That
sounds a lot like the Nephilim too. They love their creations too.
There you go.
We can get into that one day because I have a theory about that too.
Yeah, we can talk about that one.
The Watchers.
But one thing is for sure: there are variants of every creature out here on this planet. We got so many different types of dogs, so many different types of cats, wild animals. Same thing.
Well, mutant things too.
And mutants too.
You could always have two mutants that got together and had.
Yeah, started something else.
Yeah. I mean, that could be. I know that Jean Grey and Cyclops got together. They're mutants. I know.
Yeah, we don't want a copyright strike, brother.
Yeah, well, whatever. We're not going to get into who they are.
Yeah, I know.
But they're friends of ours.
Yes.
It's a guy with one eye in his head, and he's like, ugh. His real name is Lug. We call him Cyclops.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to get at is that more proof to what you just said is that there's television shows out there where a guy shot a bear that when they did the testing, it was a cross between a grizzly or Kodiak, whatever you want to call it, and a polar bear.
Well, Kodiaks are different than grizzlies.
Right. Yeah. But it was one of those two, Kodiak or grizzly.
That they had interbred.
They had bred with a polar
absolutely.
bear.
I saw that article.
Happens.
I read that.
Yeah, so that happens, like you said. So the potential that a mutant one got together with another mutant one and then this came about, it's out there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's get into some more encounters because we got a lot of stuff to go into.
Definitely. Now, I mentioned earlier the black-eyed kid story. You told me you had one.
Okay. Yeah.
That.
You want to get into that one?
Yeah, because that's a pretty recent phenomenon.
Okay, and that one I can actually attest to because here's the story behind that one, folks. We're going to move out of the Triassic era Because actually, one more thing, Jurassic is not actually correct. I don't.
I've heard that a
the
lot.
T-Rexes and all that. That was the Triassic. All right. So just so you know, this is a learning show. Okay, people. We're not here to entertain you with stories about goblins and ghouls. We're here to teach you. You're gonna learn. All right. I didn't have this kind of privileges as a kid to learn. All right. I was locked in a broom closet and told I was stupid.
Oh, you were a mushroom. Oh,
I was just, I'm just telling you, man.
Kept in the dark and fed.
I drove the short bus, dude. I don't give a crap. I drove it all the way to town, dude.
That's it, with the spinners,
I was
right?
a gangster, dude.
With the spinners?
Absolutely. With
20s
the Royale car.
or 22s?
22s, bro. I go hard, fool.
Oh, there you go.
I go hard. Fool, don't be looking at me crazy, man.
So
you're going to learn something, all right? I was letting you know. Here's what we're talking about today. This story now, switching gears, we're going to get out of the Triassic era, and we're going to talk about the black-eyed kid story. This actually happened to me. Not happened to me,
directly.
But it happened to, let's put it this way. There was a building that was being built, and it was almost done, and there are a lot of large companies around this area, and I don't even want to begin to say who it is because it is a humongous corporation, and I don't want them coming after me and I go missing or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, this Shadow Corp, as I'll call it, they had a weird incident happen with a guard that I worked with. Now, he was from Eastern Europe, and he had gotten his citizenship and actually had spent time in the military, and I think that's maybe how he got his citizenship. But anyway.
Probably. Yeah, that was common.
He got out. He was from Eastern Europe. He had lived under communism in the Eastern Bloc, told me all kinds of horrific stories. His dad had died in the gulags. But he was telling me all these stories. Very nice guy, about 10, 12 years older than me. I take that back. He was probably about 15 years older than me.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, he was over there. He was always telling me these stories of the old days and told me a couple creepy stories from back in the day of their version of the boogeyman. And I can get into that one day too. But anyway, this happened to him when he was on duty at a guard shack, and we had different sectors. And I was working in Sector 1.
Must have been a really expensive place y'all were guarding.
Well, they were building the place, and part of it was already done and functional, and the other part was being built by a very large construction company. So we got hired by them to work at this facility.
Nice.
So what ended up happening was there were cameras too, folks. Okay, so
this was a professional deal.
This was professional deal, armed guard, security thing, whatever.
Must have had a lot of really expensive stuff laying around in there.
Oh yeah, you could say that, absolutely. And they didn't want anybody coming in and going. And so they had the perimeters set up pretty far out. Now this time, when they were building this, there was not a lot of there was still a lot of woods and everything that were out on the outskirts where these places were. There still is, but I mean, they on the outskirts they were building in open fields, okay?
Oh, wow.
And then they just cleared trees out. So where he was at on Sector 3, where if I remember correctly, it was the farthest place out in the
on the perimeter?
Perimeter, yeah. And so what happened was in the middle of the night, he gets a knock on the window of
his
the guard shed, yeah. And he turns to see these. First, it was just two. As the conversation developed, there were three.
Oh, wow.
But he said there were two kids. They had very pale skin and black hair, like really, really black hair, very pale skin. And as one of them got closer to the window to talk to him, the eyes were completely black. Now, what they were asking him was if they could come into the guard shack and use the phone. This was back in like the mid-90s. And he was like, no way. And so they were like, we need to use the phone and we need to call our mom. And he's like, what are you doing wandering around out here in the middle of nowhere?
And there was nothing out there.
There was nothing out there because like I said, they set the perimeters way far out so that he would be one of the first. The Sector 1, 2, 3, and 4 were the corners.
Yeah.
So you were going to be one of the first to encounter anybody. And then if you got through that, then you would have to go through another detail.
Oh, wow.
So that's how it was set up. So they're in the middle of nowhere. They just appeared to him, and he's, this was just weird. I mean, why are these kids? It was about 2:30 in the morning. And they looked like they were probably about, the oldest he said was about 13 maybe.
Wow.
And the other two looked like they were little kids, probably like 10 and 11.
Right.
And he said that they were very adamant to use the phone. So he immediately called for a security detachment to come out there to help him with the situation, because these children would not leave, and they continued to pester him and ask him for permission to come into the guard chat. And he's like, no, you cannot. There was a little window you could open part way so you could talk.
Right.
He felt very, very uncomfortable and unnerved, so he kept it locked. He was like, I'm not opening this window. That's not going to happen. You can just forget it.
The weird crap.
And so then the one kid kept telling him,
10, right?
The one kid kept saying, don't be afraid. We're not going to hurt you. We're not going to hurt you. And he was like, do I look like I'm afraid? He was trying to be brave. And he said he didn't understand. And he told me right to my face. He's like, I don't know why I was afraid. He's like, they were just little children, but I was afraid, and this is how he talked. And he said, I don't know, why I was afraid, Turner. I don't know. They were children, but I was afraid. And I was like, okay, you had your firearm on you. Obviously, he showed them the gun. Like, you see, I have a gun here. I'm not afraid of you. And the one child stepped out from behind the first two, and she was a girl. The first two were boys. And he said, oh, you're afraid. And he was like, how do you know I'm afraid? She's like, you're afraid. And she was like, we're not going to hurt you if you just let us in to use the phone. And he's like, what does this mean if you don't hurt me? He said he was telling us this story. Now, over the years, I had seen him once or twice later on, because he actually didn't live too far from me down in South Austin. So I ran into him one day at the HEB, the grocery store. And he actually told the story to my brother and to another friend of ours out in the parking lot. And I kind of felt bad about that, because I don't think he really liked reliving it, but it was such a good story. I wanted somebody to be like, look, dude, this happened to him, So he agreed to tell it. We ended up like going out one night and having a drink, and he retold it, because he started to tell us in the parking lot.
Did you give him a drink so he'd loosen up?
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, let's go down to the the bar or whatever." And so we went to a bar that was down in South Austin, and we all sat there. And about 4 of my friends, he told us this story.
Wow.
He looked us all in our eye too. I mean, just like he had told it the first time, like it happened. Well, here's what my involvement was in this story was that I was part of the detachment that would sit over there.
Yeah, you mentioned this before. You worked with him, so
yeah.
Okay, so
I show up and I'm carrying a little more than just a pistol.
Yeah,
and I'm like, "What is the problem?" And there were no children. Okay, I didn't see anything. He was like, these children, and they were here, and I turned around to talk. I turned back around, they're gone. Wow. And his radio wasn't functioning correctly, so he had to make the phone call. And it took us a little while to get over there, because we were doing a perimeter check. We're on the other side of the property, so we got over there, fairly quickly, but it was long enough for them to be gone.
Right.
I reviewed the video, and we had a supervisor, crazy guy. He was a big black guy, and he was a really, really cool guy. He was a good friend of mine for years, and he talked like this, and he was like, I looked at that video, I didn't see nothing. And like, he was just like, I just see, you're talking to the air, you know? And he's like, are you playing with me? And he was very no nonsense, matter of fact guy, and in this guy, I'll call him, Brechnik, we'll just call him that. That's not his last name, but it's close. And he was like, no, I'm not playing. These were children, and they were there, and they look at me, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, we don't see anything. And then when I was looking at the video, Sal, I noticed that the dirt on the outside of the guard shed was moving.
So the camera was at an angle where you could get
there were cameras right there on top of these two, and
that's true.
There were cameras all over that place. You weren't going to get in and do anything.
And if you did get in, they'd have a really good picture of you, right?
So they had a good picture, and we had cameras on the perimeters too that were like just in various spots. But these kids, they were there, and they couldn't. It was weird. I looked at it because there were different angles, and I looked at a certain angle, and you could clearly see like if somebody was kicking dirt up a little bit, like they were walking or moving.
Wow.
And the problem was that when we drove up, like what looks like there might have been footprints, we drove up over them.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And so I believe him. There was something there. There was something going on. And it was weird because when I got out of the vehicle, when I walked to get back into the vehicle, I got this like electric shock of my hand. Like I touched it and I was like, whoa, you know, and it kind of, I jumped back and there was a good friend of mine who's now deceased, but he was one of my best friends. He was with me and the same thing happened to him. It was like this static electricity in the air. Now, that's a weird story. I don't know what to make of that story. I've had that one for a long, long time. And like I said, that
sounds just creepy. I mean,
he did get ill right after that too. Wow. Like for about a week, he ended up being not able to work. He had a little bit of problems. Said he had a few nightmares afterwards. Yeah. And then he had bad insomnia. And then he did actually fall ill with flu-like symptoms. Wow. Yeah. And then he didn't come back to work for a while. And that was it. That was
nuts. So,
and it's weird because when I saw him, I would say 6 years after that incident, his hair was white, like it was gray. It was just white. Like when the incident happened, he still had like darker,
some color in it. Yeah.
No, I mean, he had darker hair. I mean, I was a young guy and he wasn't that, he was, like I said, he wasn't that much older.
Maybe mid-30s? Just like,
yeah. I mean, and then like his hair was already like white with like a little bit of gray and he looked old and I was like, whoa. Like, and he would drink, but not on duty, right. And I was also one of the people that like, I made sure that people did their job, you know what I mean? Right. And I knew this guy worked. He was not a person that was...
He was dedicated to the job.
Yeah, and of course, I wasn't a real high-ranking person, but I had a little bit of pull.
Kind of like a team leader?
Yeah, I was like a unit guy, whatever, that was in charge. But I don't know what to make of that. I can't tell you what that was. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, you said you looked at the video... And of course, ex-military, I understand if you're going to put up cameras at a guard shack, they're going to be in positions where if someone comes up to that guard shack, you're going to get their face full on camera. You're going to be able to see the guard. That way, the guard is you can see what's going on with him, so on and so forth. And for your supervisor to look at the video and say, I didn't see anything. So did he just remain that way, that he just wrote it off because there was nothing there? So he just thought maybe...
I showed him
what you saw?
What I saw, and he was like, whoa.
Oh, so he got...
When we brought it to the higher-ups, and then they took it to the actual corporation that we were working for, I think
did they poo-poo it? Like,
they didn't
want
anything to do with it, they took it away.
Yeah. Well, bad press, that'll give you a lot of negative in your balances. So, loss of funds is that'll get any corporation, any big business to keep certain things in-house. So I can understand why they shut that down.
Yeah, anything that's paranormal, they're not going to be on board with. Yeah, it's not going to happen. I have worked... folks, I got a lot of stories, ghost stories from guards that I've collected over the years. I would like to just write a book about just ghost stories. I mean, just a bunch of ghost stories. Stuff that's actually happened to me, too, on post on these different job sites. I want to bring Scorpion back on at some point and let him tell you the story about that haunted church. I told you about it.
Yeah, you've mentioned the haunted church.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the details because it's pretty creepy. But we went through about 5 or 6 guards out there.
My God.
Yeah, and then finally the construction crew left because it was just too crazy.
I'm definitely up for that story.
Yeah, so that's but I can give you a really quick a UFO story.
Yeah, throw it out there.
Do that, or would you guys? You know what? Actually, the mirror story. I'm sorry, folks.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that one.
Sal, I'll let you decide. Mirror or UFO?
Oh God, we'll see. That's a tough choice, man. I mean, you're putting.
What are we doing on time?
Yeah, we good with time?
Let me ask my man here about the time.
Yeah, our production director, production manager, he does it all.
Taskmaster.
Yeah, I think we got time for that story, brother.
Okay. And I'll just say this, folks. Tony is a nice guy, but doing the show, he's very mean. He hurts our feelings. I'm not going to lie. Me and Sal have both been very hurt by his ill-tempered behavior. He doesn't like our antics, and he throws things at us, folks. I just want you to know.
That's when he doesn't have a wet noodle close by.
To hit you with. Absolutely. With, yeah. And look at him. Horrible. He's just mean, beady eye. Anyways, we're gonna get into this Black Mirror. I mean, Black Eyed Kids, Black Mirror. Well, we're gonna get into this mirror story. How about we do that? Or do you want to do the UFO real quick?
No, let's do the mirror, man.
The mirror.
I'm stoked on this one.
Let's see what we can do. And if we don't do the UFO one, we'll do it on the next one.
Yeah, because there's still a lot of potluck out there.
A lot of cool stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
What was going on with this was like, this was actually a person that heard me on Dogman, and then they were cool, and they sent me a message about a mirror, a thing that had happened to them. And I don't know what happened to this guy, because I tried to get back in touch with him, but then his Facebook kind of disappeared and reappeared. Wow. I don't know what's going on with that. But anyways, he was having a rough go of it. Him and his wife
were on the outs.
Were on the outs, yeah. And he had a house that he had inherited from an aunt or a great aunt, I believe. And now I'm trying to tell this story from memory when I read it, because I couldn't find it in my emails when I went back in and tried to look.
That explains the Facebook in and out.
Well, it's that freaking Messenger. I'd like to get these on email. It's a lot easier to go through than the Messenger, because then I got to go scroll through 1,000 messages, and then if they disconnect their Facebook, then So anyways, I couldn't find this story, but I got it committed to memory. I told this story to my wife, and she was like, it's very creepy. I got up one morning. It was weird because I was having like insomnia myself, and I couldn't, I'm a night person typically, but I couldn't sleep. So I got up and I went into my little office or whatever, and I began to go through my emails.
Yeah.
And I was the only one awake in the house.
Oh. And
I think there was only, besides my wife, I think there was only one other person that was in the house.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. Somebody was in the living room. So there's a long hallway, and I'm down at the end of the hallway in this room, and it's dark.
Oh.
And the only thing that was on was a lamp, and the lamp is very dim. So I'm basically sitting in the dark, and I didn't want to wake up my wife because she was asleep. And so I didn't want to bother her with my insomnia. So I went in there and I was like, I'm going to look through my emails or whatever. Yeah. And I got this on Messenger, I guess it was, story. So I started reading it, and it creeped me out, dude. I'm not going to lie. Like, and then I'm like toward the end of it, and there's just like, I was almost ready to go, you know what? I need to just go back to bed and try to but then I couldn't sleep after reading that. But here's the story. So this guy, he ended up moving to France, to the south of France.
Is that where the house was that he inherited?
It was. Okay. Yes. And it was more about a mirror than the house. Wow. He believes that that's what it was. So he moves, and he ends up having, living in this house. He said it was on a nice acreage of property, but it wasn't a big house. It was about 3 bedrooms.
It's a chateau.
But he had his own little like office or whatever.
Yeah.
And what I guess this guy does is like he likes to write.
Oh, okay.
And I don't even know what he writes, or I didn't ask. I didn't even get into all that. I just know that he likes to write, and he didn't tell me what he does for a living. Mm-hmm. So the anonymity is also very important. And like I said, I don't even think he's on Facebook anymore. It was very brief. Like he was there, then he wasn't. But he did like my show, so that was cool. So anyways, if you're listening, you know who you are. I'm not going to give away anything other than that. And so he was living in this house, and everything was fine for about a week or two. And then he went upstairs to get something from this attic.
Uh-huh.
I call it an attic. It just sounded like there was an extra room that had been built kind of on the upstairs.
Oh, okay.
I guess the attic had been converted into some sort of room or something.
Possibly, maybe
That's what it sounded like. He said that there was a 3rd floor, but it was just like a small room.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking an attic.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my words.
I'd go with that.
And he said that when he had moved in, there was a lot of stuff that was covered up. And one thing that was wrapped completely in a sheet was a mirror. And he said that when he took it off, the sheet off of it, that it was very ornate, and that the wooden trim around this mirror, wooden trim, real nice, very beautiful, like rounded mirror, antique. You couldn't possibly know how old it was. It actually, when he did a little research on it, they were Celtic runes that were drip, like carved into it.
Yeah, that's.
So, anyways, that was he found that out a little bit later what they were, because he did some research on it. But when he found this mirror, he uncovered it, and he said that like almost immediately, like that night, he began to hear like noises, like thumping around and something moving around.
This was in the house?
Almost sounded like something like how a dog's tail would hit the ground, like a dog when it wags its tail, like a thump, 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 thump.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said that he would hear what sounded like scratching noises coming from that upstairs.
The area where the mirror was at.
The mirror was at, yeah. And so he had a couple weird dreams too, you know, like in like on the following nights from when he
after he uncovered the mirror.
Yes, after he uncovered this mirror.
Whoa.
And the nightmares got a little more pronounced to where it was almost like they were real. Ooh. And one of the nightmares was that he had gone upstairs and something was knocking on that door on the other side of the door, and he opened the door and this thing like slithered past him and then went down the stairs.
Did he give a description of that thing?
No, not at that point. Now, when he did finally say that, you know, that one day it snowed. So after the snow fell, he had gone outside to do something, and so he noticed that there were like these weird tracks in the snow.
Oh,
and I asked him, I had messaged him back to try to get him to send pictures or whatever, but I didn't get any more correspondence from him.
Right.
I got the impression that he really didn't want to deal with it. He just told the story, I guess, got it off his chest, and that was it. But anyways, there were these tracks that led from the front door of the property.
He didn't describe the tracks?
Yeah, he did. The front door of the property, and it went all the way out to the tree line, to the edge of the tree line, which he said was about 80 yards, I think he said.
Oh, wow.
Because I asked to estimate, and he never responded, but he did, I believe, say 75 to 80 yards. That's what he typed to me.
Were they odd-looking tracks, or?
He said that he said like when he was talking about the tree line, he said that the tree line was 75 to 80 yards from the house, if I remember correctly. And the tracks, he said, looked like 3 toes.
Oh, wow.
But not human-looking toes.
Right.
He said these weird 3-toed, non-human looking tracks. Now, we're left to speculate.
Yeah, that's
because even though he did give me the you know how many
general description of them.
Yeah, and if I'm sorry, I messed that up. It's 75 to 80 meters, I think. Is what he said.
Yeah, that's right. They use meters in
meters. And I think that's what he had said. And so I don't remember, you know, and heck, it could have been yards, but I thought he said 75, 80 meters, I believe. Mm-hmm. But these tracks, the 3-toed tracks, they were clawed. He did say that there was like these. So we're left to speculate what it looks like, or what. I asked several questions that I didn't get a response to, but anyways, the tracks were very pronounced, and then the snow was like whatever this was, that it sunk in, you know, and it was weird because they were moving away from the front door, from the house,
Wow.
And so it got worse from there. Like basically, what happened was a haunting kind of developed. He would hear knockings on the wall.
Yeah.
One day he heard what sounded like something being thrown against his door of his bedroom.
Holy moly.
And then one day he heard what sounded like scratching. I can't try to remember exactly how he worded it, like scratching. And then he heard like something that like it was jumping up and down in the hallway.
Wow.
Like something was running like a heavy. And now he said if you had like an ostrich in your house, and the way he spelled ostrich was trying to remember if it was like
Austria.
Yeah, like no, he spelled it like the way he spelled ostrich, though. I'm not sure if that was if that's what he was trying to do, because it looked like the way he typed, like he typed it quickly or something. It was like, you know. And then he did apologize that he's like, look, I type all the time, but this is just, I'm getting this out there very quickly.
Yes.
Seemed like somebody who was kind of like unnerved by telling it, so they were just wanting to get it done, and you know. And,
I would be unnerved as well.
Yeah, and so when I'm reading this, it was getting creepier and creepier, and then it ended up with like him actually hearing some noise. He had a female companion that had come over, and she was actually staying there for a little bit. And they went upstairs, and as they were going upstairs, they heard something fall. And when they go into that room, because it came from that room, they both see what looks like a black arm, a skinny black arm with 3 fingers going back from the, like that was like moving on the ground.
Yes.
But going back into the mirror. And then it disappeared.
Into the mirror.
Into the mirror.
Whoa, man.
And at that point, it was the mirror was flat on the ground. Like the mirror had been, he had set it up and it had fallen.
Wow.
And it continued to fall. Like he would pick it up and it would fall.
Wow, that's...
And like I said, it looked like he just typed it quickly, and he said, "Sorry, I'm kind of pressed for time, but I need to get this done and tell you, and you can do what you want with it." So that was that story, and then he moved.
Yeah, I would have moved too, man. That is seeing a creepy, skinny-looking arm. Yeah, yeah.
Weird. Now he did see.
I would have said, "Baby, we got to go."
Of this thing, I was going to tell you, he did see a description of this thing in another dream he had.
Oh, wow.
And that he had opened the door to his bedroom, and this thing had like a weird, like almost like the head was like a human skull with just like a little bit of brown flesh on it.
Yeah.
And that its mouth opened up and it leaned its head in toward him.
Oh.
He saw what looked like bony wings kind of on the back and really skinny, bony arms. The whole thing was like brownish black.
Wow.
And these weird looking, like almost like Dogman looking legs that ended in these 3 toes. He said he got a good look at it in his dream, but he said the dream was almost like a real.
It was like really vivid,
yeah.
Huh? Wow.
And he said it leaned in and it just kind of went like,
Oh.
I'm trying to read how he, that's how, like it made an noise, And he was pretty descriptive about that part of it.
That is.
But as far as like the other details, there's not really, I can't.
Right. We can only speculate on it.
Speculate what he was going through. And he's like, I swear to you, this is the truth, and he said there was a couple other weird things that happened in that house, but we didn't go into detail about it.
Well, imagine, seeing a creepy arm and, going back into a mirror and yeah, to me.
So you can see why I was creeped out.
Yeah.
And let me tell you.
Especially with your, in a previous episode, you mentioned the house and the creepy shadow thing coming in and out of that mirror you had at that house. You had a.
Well, that thing was not like this thing.
Yeah, I know. But
that was like a little impish creature. This was like its dad or something. I don't know what. What's crazy though is like I was sitting there and then my dog, she comes bebopping into the room and the door wasn't all the way closed and she just busts in and she's always like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's real playful and I was like, "Huh." So she looks at me and bolts back out of the room, and I'm like, oh my gosh, scared me, dude, because I was just like reading that, and then I was like, oh, okay, it's time to go back to my room and get back in bed.
I would have, that kind of story right there. You hear people having these crazy events, haunted houses, maybe cursed objects and all this other stuff.
And I can get into that too.
Wow, yeah.
We spoke about the key that we had.
Yeah, we're going to have that
gargoyle statue.
Yeah, we're going to, folks, if you've got any stories of cursed objects or anything of that sort, hey, send it in to us, man, because we want to hear these stories. You just heard, Wolf's reaction to that particular story.
I'm still getting the chills right now.
Yeah,
that story was so...
it's... For some people, they'll say, "Oh, poo-poo on that," but guess what? There are those out there that have experienced it and here with you. Yeah. So that pretty much wraps it up for this episode, folks. We want you to like and subscribe. And hey, Wolf, you care to plug the email so folks can send us their stories?
Yeah. I don't know why I have to do it. Why I got to do everything, man?
You're much better at it.
I'm much better at it.
It just rolls off your tongue.
Oh, okay, so you butter me up and then I do it, right?
Yeah, well, kind of.
You're much better at taking out the trash, son. That's why you should do it.
Yeah, that's it. You're much better.
You're a very eloquent trash taker outer.
Well, see, look, I got a cousin. I'm Hispanic, so I got like tons of cousins. But anyways, he always said there's 3 types of beer: my beer, your beer, and free beer. And he'd say, and the third one is the best, free beer. So
unless it's just like really bad swill that they're giving it away and that's why it's free. Because I work downtown in Austin, and when you get the cheap drinks, you're getting the garbage, man.
Yeah.
So your cousin's
no.
What's wrong with that guy?
He's an old cowboy. There's not too much stuff that'll that's not too much stuff that'll make him sick. So
he's loco in his cabeza.
No.
Oh, and folks, by the way, I just wanted to real quick recap. The name of those birds. What was the corta
cabezas?
Corta cabeza, yeah, because it was the head cutter. That's what they're called. Yeah, and I actually did just get that. I looked it up on my notebook or whatever. I found it. But Armando Salazar knows how to say those words better than me. So anyways, we're going to plug that email, daswolfman88@gmail.com, daswolfman88@gmail.com, and send us your creepy stories, dude.
We got to hear them. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'd love to hear these stories.
Yep. And so that's it for today, for tonight, whatever planet you're from, wherever you're at. Sayonara.
Y'all have a good one.